So welcome to this video from myself, Emanuela Lotti, and my colleagues, Giannarakis and Giannarakis, which we are all from the University of Southampton, and we're exploring the link between the request of dissertation extensions and the academic performance. The motivation of this work is in fact this graph, which I'm going to show you in a second, which shows that following COVID, the number of extension requests has increased dramatically, and following various anecdotal evidence, the anecdotal evidence, so asking colleagues and other kind of analysis of this kind, show that in fact the reasons behind the extension request were different than the standard request that would satisfy fit with the university policy on extension and special consideration request. So following that, we start looking at assuming that it's possibly behind this increase in the number of extension requests, there was some kind of academic procrastination. And we use the undergraduate dissertation because the literature shows that in fact the procrastination tend to be more likely when the tasks are very demanding, and which tasks generate anxiety, and with an effect that is stronger the larger is the distance between the present date and the deadline. So we use the dissertation as an example of this long-term assessment. We also use a change in extension policy, in particular no question asked. So for extension that were 2 weeks or less, for maximum 2 weeks or less, there was no need to provide any evidence. So we use this kind of short extension as our measure of procrastination. I'm going to look at the impact of at the link between this procrastination on academic performance, on the dissertation itself, and also on other assessment that have the deadline coming shortly after the dissertation. And I will leave now to my colleagues to describe the empirical analysis. Thank you very much.
Hello, I am Giannarakis. I'm a senior teaching fellow in economics at the University of Southampton, and together we're going to explore the data that we have used and also our empirical results for this research. So in terms of data, we have data from 2 academic years, this academic year and also the previous one, where we observe a very high increase of extension requests. We have marks of dissertations in economics from a Russell Group University, the University of Southampton, and we have also exam marks in other economic modules that took place after the submission deadline. And we have also the actual submission day of the dissertation and the extension request. We thought that we should split those two informations and actually combine submission days with extension request. Why? Because a student who may request up 7 days of an extension may submit in 5 or in 4. Actually, actually 80% of the students have submitted at the exact day of the approved extension request. And we control also for supervisors, for dissertation supervisors, and also for topics that each student did their research on, their program of study, and as a proxy for their past performance, we use the year 2 average grade. And let's go now to the empirical results. As a brief introduction, we find that a student who are going to submit 10 days late, we will expect that their average dissertation grade will decrease from 0.8 to 1.4 points out of 100. And a student who got up to the group of students that got up to 14 days of extension, we will expect that their average will be lower from 2 to 3 points, from 2 to 3 points out of 100 from the group of students that have submitted before the deadline. And also, students that have submitted more than 14 days late will expect that this group of students, the average will be lower from 2.3 to 3.5 points out of 100 from our reference category, which is the group of students that have submitted before the deadline. And we also find that the marks in the exams of 2 out of 4 modules have been negatively impacted for students that have submitted late their dissertation. So let's see some empirical results. In this model, we test what is the impact of submission days on the dissertation mark. We can see that this is negative and significant. And basically, for model 5, we control for time, for year 2 performance, for supervisor, topic, and program of study. And we find that a student who will submit 10 days late will expect that their dissertation mark will decrease by 1.1 out of 100. And if we split the groups into 4, first group is students that have submitted before the submission deadline. For those who have negative days, so -3 before the deadline, and -3 from the deadline, and so on. Those that have submitted during the deadline, at the day of the deadline, those that have submitted from 1 to 14 days after the deadline with an approved extension request, and those that have submitted more than 14 days of submission after the deadline. We can see that both groups will expect a lower dissertation mark from 2.35, 2.3 points from our reference category for those students that have submitted up to 2 weeks, and almost 3 points out of 100 for those that have submitted more than 2 weeks after the dissertation deadline. To conclude, we have seen that the extension requests have been increased a lot during the COVID-19 pandemic, from 7.6% before the pandemic to 20 and 25%, 26% almost during the pandemic. And we find that a student that will submit late their dissertation, it is associated with a significant decrease in their average dissertation mark. Students that got up to 2 weeks of extension had on average significantly lower marks from those that have submitted before the deadline, as we have seen before. And marks in the exam of 2 out of 4 modules that took place after the submission deadline have been negatively impacted for students that have submitted late, and which suggests that we should find an intervention which will aim to improve students' task management and basically decrease the extension request and the late submissions. Thank you. Thank you.